Hello and welcome to the Everyday Project Manager. I'm Jeremy Nichols and today I'm going to be talking about one of the questions I get asked quite a lot, which is who should you have on the project team? Obviously every project is different and will require different skills and different needs, but are there certain people who should be on every project team? Well, I believe there aren't certain people who should be on every project team, but there are certain roles that come up time and time again. So I think these are the roles that should be considered on every project, and we're going to go through them now. Now, it's more or less a given on any project that two of the roles will be filled. Those are the sponsor and the project manager. The sponsor is the person who is typically commissions or pays for the project. It's them that wants the output of the project. And of course, the project manager is the person who manages it on a day-to-day basis. Some of our other videos talk in more detail about the role of the sponsor and the role of the project manager, so we won't go into that now, but let's start with those two of the roles filled, sponsor and project manager. But who else is on the project team? Well, number one. The first role we're going to talk about today is the requirements gatherer. Once you've got your project manager and sponsor in place, of course. The requirements gatherer goes by a number of names in different organizations. It might be called a business analyst or a development manager, depending on the business or the sector. But basically, they're the person who sits with the business, with the customer, with the stakeholders, and finds out what the requirements are. What should the project deliver? What's the problem we're trying to solve? And once we've delivered that end product, whatever it is, how should it behave? How should it feel? What should it be like to interact with it? Now, they might do this in a number of ways. They can write out a list of requirements. The solution should do this, the solution should look like that. Or it might be that they help sketch out ideas, do wireframes. But basically, they're the person who, through any number of means, gets down the detail of what is it we actually want the project to do. Next up, we have the subject matter expert and solution designer. So this is the person who has the expertise in the area in which you're trying to deliver your project. So for example, in a construction housing project, that might be the architect who can tell you how you should build the house. If it's a technology project, it might be the website developer or the person who's doing the coding. In any case, it's the person who has the expertise in the area that you're trying to build or create something as part of your project. Now, of course, that might involve several experts. You might need to bring someone in who's an expert on website security and someone who's an expert on coding and someone who's an expert on user experience and display. But you probably want someone to have the overall control of what that looks like. And that's your SME and solution designer. They create the design that you work to. Now they take the requirements from the requirements gatherer and working with that person, with the requirements gatherer, understand what the customer wants and creates the solution design, that the final design that the project will deliver that meets those requirements. So you've found out what your customer wants and you've created a solution design that you believe will meet those requirements. You now need to give that to somebody to go and build it. So every project will have an implementer, someone who's actually going to be doing the work to create the end product. Now, you typically don't just want to give them the design and say, go and build that. Ideally, they're involved during the design stage. They're working with the solution designer or the SME to say, well, actually, it's not going to be very easy to build it like that. We could do it another way, or actually that's totally impossible to build like that. You need to do it this way, or actually here's a better way we could do that, which will add more value. In that sense, they're an SME in their own right. They know how this thing should be built and they've got the expertise and the resources to do it. So every project should have an implementer who actually goes and builds the design that's been created. Now, as you go through your design stage and you begin to build the end product, somebody ought to be thinking about what the impact of this project is going to be on the various stakeholders and people who are going to be impacted by it. So, for example, if it's a new software rollout, who's affected by that? Who uses that software, and how will they have to change how they behave day to day, and what will they do differently in the new software versus the old software, for example? The change manager is the person who manages the impact of the project on those affected by it. And typically their role is to minimize that impact to the greatest extent possible. It can be one of those thankless roles insofar as complete success as a change manager means no one realizes you did anything. It was just a completely smooth transition from the old world to the new. But that is the role. Taking the old world, looking at the new world, deciding what the difference is between those two things and working to reduce the impact on those affected. And the final role we're going to talk about today is the operational owner. This is the person who is going to live with the product day to day when the project has gone away. So the person who's going to keep and maintain it. So for a computer system, it might be the person who's going to have ownership of that computer system once it's in place, once it's running day to day. Because of course, once the project's delivered it, the project team will typically disband and go back to their day jobs. So the operational owner needs to be involved as well to be checking that what's being developed is something they're going to be able to support, to keep and to maintain over the long term. So there you have it. Those are the roles that I believe you will encounter most often across project teams. Of course, not every project will have all of those roles, but those are the ones you encounter most commonly, and the ones that I think as a PM you need to be considering, do I have all of those roles covered off? Now, it's important to consider two things. First of all, there might be one person covering more than one of those roles. So bear that in mind, that although you might think that you've got your requirements gathered and now you need a operational owner, that might be the same person in your particular organization or where you're delivering your project. So bear in mind where one person is delivering more than one role within your project team. And secondly, those roles work quite nicely in sequence. The requirements are gathered, they're handed to the solution designer, they design the solution, they hand it to the implementer who then goes and delivers the project, and the change manager then kicks in and deals with the impact before the operational owner finally takes it off into the distance. But it works best when all of those roles are working together throughout the project. So right back at the start, the operational owner might be informing some of the requirements. These are the things that I need it to do so that I can support it on a day-to-day basis. Different roles will have a more active part to play in the project at any given point, but all of them work best when they're performing together throughout the project. I really hope that's been helpful. Please do like this video if you found it helpful. It helps others to find it. And if you want to get more of these, you want to know when we've released another project, do subscribe as well. Thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye now.